Good morning, Malta and Gozo, and welcome to another episode of Lovin Daily. My name is JP, and today I'm joined by Luigi. Luigi, how are you?
I'm good, JP. Good morning.
And let's get straight into our headlines for today. Malta's streets suffer as road submerges in rainy weather. Maltese cat rescuer denounces animal welfare practices. Malta records its 16th COVID-19 victim as cases once again start to rise. Education Minister urges parents to send children to school, and AZZOPARDI slams the Attorney General for refusing to publish SCHEMBRI's passport kickbacks inquiry.
Thank you, JP. Let's go straight into the first story. Yesterday, Malta was hit by some serious stormy weather, which is very typical of September. But yesterday, chaos and havoc was unleashed onto the streets with cars wading through makeshift rivers, Ramla Bay falling apart. I mean, it was truly quite the scene, and we get these videos every time at this time of year. I mean,
absolutely. I mean, like it's not uncharacteristic for Malta to just submerge once stormy weather hits. Yesterday was particularly bad, as you know, the usual hotspots were hit: Msida, Pembroke, Zira, all submerged. But even places like Mosta, which don't usually flood, were just absolutely taken over by rain, and it looked like one massive water park, to be honest. Not a one you'd want to go to. There are even videos and footage of buses flooding, so passengers...
Nobody was unaffected by the weather.
Exactly, everyone was hit by it, but you know what, it kind of turns into a bit of a serious problem, right?
Yeah, there's a discussion going on at the moment. I mean, in 2014, we had an 11-kilometer rainwater tunnel completed, which cost 52 million. There are actually two tunnels. There's one in Attard and one in Mosta, and they join beneath Birkirkar and Tashbih. So the government has invested in trying to manage this problem, but clearly the problem still persists. I mean, it's a huge issue.
I mean, that was what, six years ago that this rain tunnel was completed, but 6 years later.
And it's not the only investment. I mean, the government has been investing almost 700 million into the roads around Malta. So, I mean, some serious questions need to be asked.
Absolutely. I mean, this happens every year. We kind of anticipate that it's going to happen, but for some reason our roads keep flooding, and it gets quite dangerous. Our photos of rubble walls falling down, balconies collapsing and whatnot, and so it's quite a serious issue, as fun as it may be when stormy weather hits the island beginning of September. Moving on to our second story of today, a Maltese cat rescuer has denounced animal welfare practices. Activist Michael St. John, who's the founder of NGO Animal Protectors, talked about or criticized, so to say, animal welfare and their lack of action, so to speak, when it comes to carrying out their duties. Allegedly, he took to a Facebook post to criticize them, especially in light of a recent case he had to deal with, where two dogs were abandoned on the street, supposedly beaten and abused by the owner, and animal welfare had to return these dogs to its abusive owner. Now, to be fair, I mean, I can understand the criticism to animal welfare because obviously they've been quite silent on recent issues that have developed, and animal activists tend to criticize them quite heavily. We do also have to understand that animal welfare appears to be quite stretched for resources. There are about 24 people working full time there, and they receive about 6,000 calls a year, and they are obliged by the law to carry out certain procedures, even though they may not favor them. So this whole issue of finding an abandoned dog on the street, if that dog is abandoned but has a microchip or whatnot, or is chipped and belongs to an owner, they have to return the dog back. So part of what they do is bound by law, but obviously there's a lot of criticism towards them, and there is a need for change, obviously, especially in light of a lot of recent cases surrounding animal abuse.
Yeah, I mean, just last week we had that absolutely tragic and heartbreaking story of the two pit bulls who escaped the upper tenement and made their way down into the home of a 95-year-old lady who was unfortunately killed in the attack. And animal welfare had been on site multiple times. They had received multiple reports, but they said that the dogs were in a good state and that they didn't confiscate the dogs from the owner. And what happened in the end was fatal and was truly tragic.
Absolutely. Also, not to forget that there is a magisterial inquiry going on at the moment regarding that case. And just a point of clarification, Luigi, they weren't exactly pit bulls; they were crossbreeds. So we can't give a bad name to pit bulls themselves. But
that may be a
these dogs,
common misconception.
Exactly, these were backyard breeders. So these were mixed dogs.
Yep, moving on to our third story of the day. An 86-year-old woman became Malta's 16th COVID-19 death. Yesterday, 53 new cases were announced along with 18 recoveries, but active cases are slowly making their way back up. We have 499 active cases at the moment. And just 4 days before that, there was also another 80-year-old man who also had underlying conditions like the 86-year-old woman from yesterday who passed away due to COVID-19, Jay.
Yeah, I mean, the coronavirus is still here, but something we have to deal with. In terms of global news and something that affects Malta as well, AstraZeneca and Oxford University have resumed their trials for the COVID-19 vaccine that is promised to Malta. So a total of 300,000 doses of this AstraZeneca vaccine have been promised to Malta. Health Minister Chris Fern confirmed. The trial was put on hold last week after a patient tested ill. In fact, it was believed that said patient had developed transverse myelitis, I think I'm saying that correct, which is an inflammation in the spinal cord. It's known to be, to occur in vaccinations, but it's quite a rare illness. But trials are now once again on their way, and we're expecting, if everything goes to plan, that Malta will be getting the vaccine by as early as December. Moving on to our fourth story, Education Minister Owen Bonici is urging parents to send children to school, and he's doing so by taking to a Facebook video where he himself committed to sending his own child to school, saying that, listen guys, COVID-19 is here, we can't put everything on hold, education is important, we can't wait until a vaccine, whenever that comes, and it's time to send our children to school. In fact, just this morning, new guidelines were released on kindergartens and kindergarten guidelines, which include social distancing measures, as well as the children aren't allowed to take their toys to school and whatnot. It seems a bit ridiculous, but hey, these are the times that we're living in.
And I mean, what Bonici is arguing is that it would be far worse to have our kids miss out on 6 months to a year of schooling until a vaccine comes out. He's putting their education and that social aspect of their education sort of as a priority, and is arguing that we need to learn to live with the virus. However, at the same time, the guidelines don't seem to have provided enough reassurance to parents. I mean, it's a slippery slope.
Absolutely, and still guidelines haven't been released for sixth form university, and those start quite soon.
Yeah, they start. Church schools will be starting on the 28th of September, along with government schools, and private schools to start on the 30th of September. Parents, comment down below. Do you feel safe sending your children to school so soon?
And our last story of today.
Yep, moving into our last story. Jason AZZOPARDI has slammed the recently appointed Attorney General for refusing to publish an inquiry into allegations of corruption and kickbacks from the sale of 3 passport sales to a Russian family. The payments, the alleged payments are 50,000. 2 payments of 50,000 from Nexia BT's Brian Tonna via Pilates Bank. Jason AZZOPARDI has said that the recently appointed Attorney General should publish the inquiry immediately, and Simon Busuttil has said that it is in the public interest that this inquiry is published.
Yeah, obviously this looks into SCHEMBRI and whatnot, and the allegations that he received 2 payments of €50,000 each for selling these passports. Buttigieg, who was most recently appointed the new Attorney General following Peter Gregg, is now again facing some heat. Not again, for the first time actually since she took her role, which just a couple of weeks ago. And KICKBACKS as well, who's also has his fingers in dipped in a lot of things, and is allegedly tied with the murder of Daphne Caruana Galizia. So it'll be interesting to see when this inquiry into the passport kickback scheme will be published. But Buttigieg is facing some heat and some pressure from Jason AZZOPARDI.
Just like her predecessor.
Just
I
like
think it's the role sort of attracts the
Exactly.
heat. You have to make a lot of heavy, hard decisions.
Absolutely.
We'll see what Buttigieg does.
Absolutely, and it's a very serious role as well, so rightfully so. And with that being said, that brings us to the end of today's episode. Thank you for joining us and have a day full of lovin'.